Well, today we're going to learn some practical decision-making skills, and we'll do it by following one of Magnus Carlsen's games against Levon Aronian.
Ooh,
And as always, I will pause the game during critical moments, and you can try to guess how to continue, both Arne and anybody who's watching. So
excellent.
we will look at it from Magnus's side, from white, and the game started with a semi-Slav, very typical at the top level, but what we're going to be interested in is more what happens after. So today we won't go too deep into the theory, and instead we'll go when the theory kind of starts to die down.
Mhm.
So white has exchanged a piece, black has taken here, and this was the first moment where Magnus kind of made a more unconventional move and didn't recapture the pawn back with b takes a3, but instead went to castle. Of course, nothing would have been wrong if he had recaptured here. It would have just been around equal position, but he went for castling. So right away, kind of
Hmm.
setting the tone that he doesn't need this pawn and that he would rather have piece activity there. And
Yes.
this practical decision making might seem like straightforward on paper because you just follow some principles like piece activity or counterplay or creating weaknesses and things like that. But it's a lot harder to do in your own games with your own decisions to give up a pawn like that or to give it up for something that might be temporary and not permanent. And the only way to develop it is with practice, which is why I want you to take the next decisions as if it's going to be your own game. So that will be
Oh dear. Okay, let's try that. Well,
so
first of
black
all, I would have done
continues.
exactly the same as Carlsen. That's
Really, you
just,
wouldn't
yeah.
you wouldn't take that pawn?
No, I want my bishop to be on b2 and have more initiative. Absolutely, I
Exactly.
can
And that's what
calculate that.
happens next is that black took the pawn and the bishop went to b2.
Mhm.
Black plays a5. And this was a critical moment. What do you think white should play now?
Yeah, so for I cannot do it right now for you at home, as Svitlana already said. Now it is time to think about this as if this would be your own game. Think about it as a long time control. Stop it and actively think what could be the next move here? What would I play? What are my plans? Am I as good as Magnus or even better? So, yeah, a5. That's a statement. I think it's like thin.
Statement of the extra pawn.
Yeah, and like this is going to become a queen sooner or later. I think it's thin air though. I don't believe. So now we have initiative. So if we're fighting for initiative, I think we should also try to go for initiative. So a couple of ideas I have right now is, and I don't know. I don't play against the semi-Slav to be honest. So the queen could go to a4, would be an idea because then I have the rooks connected, and one of the rooks could go to c1 next. That's one plan. The other plan is a bit more ambitious, and I don't trust it yet because it could involve e4 and then push one of the pawns forward. Definitely not e5 though, but yeah, open up the position. So after e4, play d5, give away another pawn maybe, but then black should have some trouble because the king is just still in the middle and it takes at least two moves to get out of there. But black has to address our moves first. So these are my two plans. And then I would probably think of some other ideas, but I don't want to push this forward for too long. So one of those two it has to be.
So you're looking in the right direction. Queen
Okay.
a4 would have been good. So this leads to a good position, bring the rook to c1, keep the rooks connected. So this would be approximately equal
Mm-hmm.
and rather good. One of the typical plans that you can go for. But what the real move was is even more ambitious than anything you've mentioned. You mentioned the e4 and d5 plan, which is exactly what Magnus did without e4. So
Okay.
you can you can
Yeah,
tell that
yeah.
the
Wow.
actual move was d5.
Wow. I have to digest
Did you see
this.
that coming?
Um, there. So that, of course, played a role in my head, but I immediately pushed it away because I thought, like, nah, it's just stupid. But yeah, yeah, this Magnus probably thought like, I'm going to push e4 and then d5. Ah, e4. Who needs e4?
Grabbed the
I
wrong
mean,
pawn and just had to play d5 at that
yeah,
point.
so I'm not seeing how to, yeah, but of course, I mean, black
So
has
it's
to address that. That
yeah,
is cool.
it's a very risky move, and I'm pretty sure that this was a novelty at the time. And this pawn gets sacrificed just for creating more space in the center, for opening up this really beautiful A1 HA diagonal. And it's funny to see that D5 is one of the probably the most defended square in the position. It's
In the
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
history of
five
chess.
defenders. This
Yes.
is the most protected square you could ever go for. But this pawn break turns out to be effective, at the very least psychologically, because it's right away making a statement that you are going to go for the piece activity and right away for the kill. So Engine does not put this move at the top choices. So actually something like Queen A4 would probably be more like objectively correct. But we're not playing against the computer either. And this turned out to be one of the key moves in the game that gave Magnus initiative. So this was a really interesting alternative, and it's not like too much worse either, but it's just practically a lot more risky.
Yeah, I can see it. The longer I look at this position, I can more and more understand the idea behind it, and it's really cool.
Yeah, of course, opening up the bishop and right away you just see that the position has
Yeah.
so much more life to it. So let's see the recaptures. What happens if c takes d5? This one loses immediately. Do
Yeah,
you see why?
that's a bishop check on b5, and I think a3 is made already, right? Almost. No, the queen goes in
And
between.
of course, so either bishop a3 if he moves away, and if he goes here, then we're just
Yeah,
going to
knight. Oh,
keep
there's
attacking that knight
yeah.
and
It wasn't as
something like this.
straightforward as I thought for a moment. Yeah, but it
No
looks
choices,
terrible.
either mate or something wrong happens on the long diagonal. So this one loses immediately. E takes d5 doesn't lose immediately. So this one would have been a longer game. And we can focus either on the weakness on c6 or also knight to f5 is an option where we're focusing on that other weakness. The bishop is really strong. If black ever castles, they would be in big trouble. And if not, then we can actually even prevent them from castling, focus on that log diagonal, and basically just have initiative for the long term. And all the tactics kind of being on the white side here. And one more before we go to knight d5, which is what happened in the game, it's queen d5. So this one would have been logical as well. And notice how in none of these, black is not giving back the pawn, so white is never going to see that pawn again. But instead, this allows white to activate all the pieces, bring them to attacking squares, play your queen a4 move, rook d1. So although it is second pawn already that white is down, but all of the pieces are doing their job. And you're very likely, when that happens, when your pieces are so much better, you're very likely to win at least one of the pawns back.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. But this is why this is a really difficult skill and a really difficult decision to make, to give up that pawn and to kind of believe in your position and in your pieces and in your calculation that you're like, well, if black makes a mistake, then you'll make use of it. So
Interesting.
now after knight d5, we need a follow-up. Which weakness do you think we should focus on?
Well, so the I wouldn't define it as weakness. Probably I'm not. I would say the weakness of black is that they still haven't castled. So it's kind of like the king and the pieces around the king. So I need to find something which is a bit more straightforward now. And yeah, we need to keep up the initiative because once we're all in, we should stay all in. I don't know, maybe
Exactly.
maybe
You
that's not
can't back
always
down after you gave 2 pawns.
yeah. Not sure how this reflects for life or other things, but yeah, in this case we just roll with it. So what would be a weakness? C6 is a thing which I'm looking at. Also in situations maybe f7 even. But that
Yeah.
might take some
So
time.
which move
So
attacks both of them?
yeah, it is. It is okay. Cool. Because this is what I've noticed in Magnus's Blitz and Bullet games very often. Not sure if anybody of you at home have noticed that, because you probably are also Magnus Carlsen fans and you follow him. He loves pushing knights to the fifth row because, of
Yeah.
course, they are very active there and they have lots of gain and game. So yeah, great move. And
Yeah, I haven't noticed it,
yeah, I
but
noticed it and I
I
was like,
believe it.
what is happening? Why is he always pushing the knights forward? It's like, and sometimes, yeah, he's moving them back, but first he's pushing them forward because it's like
Exactly.
so
For they
annoying.
create problems,
Yeah.
just create more threats and like more and more and more, and eventually the opponent might make a mistake somewhere. So that's why the knight goes on to the best square that it can. Knight to e5, threatening c6 and f7, just
Mhm.
like you said. Now, black has spent one more move playing with the knight, knight f6, to prevent this queen h5, because it would have been really unpleasant to have to play g6 and to open up that diagonal.
Yes.
So preventing queen to h5, but this is going to spend another tempo for black. So this way, white can now activate with queen a4, something we've talked about a lot already.
Hmm.
And so eventually, now at this point, we can take the pawn, and at least we gain back one of them. So here, of course, there's no chance for black to, let's say, capture this one because of knight e5, it is covered check.
Yeah.
So this one is not possible, and black cannot really do anything else. If they move the queen, we're going to play bishop b5 and also just win with knight to b4. So these are just some examples of how easy it is to make a mistake for black. And instead, in the actual game, Levon is, of course, a very strong defensive player as well. So he took on c6 and played king e7. So white has regained a pawn, but black's king remained without castling rights.
Hmm.
But at least what black's rooks are now connected, and this should be enough to contain white's initiative for now. So do you like it for white or for black? Although maybe for you, I shouldn't even ask such questions.
Yes, I like it for white.
I already know. Yeah, so you would like it for white, and I
Mhm.
probably would too. But overall, the position is equal, and black does have enough pieces to get it defended. Um, the rooks are connected. The passed pawn on a5 might not be anything special right now, but it could be in the future if, let's say, like the queens get traded or the rooks get traded. Then that will be a really serious advantage for black. So this is why the position is approximately balanced and equal. But we'll see how good Magnus is at making these decisions and making like uncomfortable positions for the opponents. So so far the rook attacked, the queen moved away, so the pieces are just getting more developed. And now the next couple of moves, Magnus doesn't really do anything special, but instead he just puts his bishops onto good squares where they don't do anything yet, but they just restrict the opponent's pieces and they are prepared to do something potentially in the future. So one bishop is on d4, doing a really good job in the center, looking at in every single direction, and the other bishop is on b7. So that one is just limiting the queen, limiting some options for the other pieces. And this is just a way of keeping the maximum tension. And this bishop right here is also not allowing like any of the rooks to get traded. So this is kind of the strategy here to make sure to prevent black's counterplay a little bit more.
Mhm.
So now black kind of ran out of options of what to do and went for a bit of a like questionable plan. It's not that bad, of course, but he went for h5, which at first glance makes sense, but it only helps white to make this h3. I think you call it luft, right? Or
Yes,
something
yes, the
like that.
king
It's a
needs
funny
some
word.
luft.
So it's a useful move for white more than it is for black to have provoked that.
Mhm.
And we'll see that it did end up being useful in the future. And going for this plan is, of course, fine, but it creates like this potential like future weakness, let's say on h4. So, but of course, it was difficult to say something like what else really to do for um what else to really do for white. No, sorry, for black. Um, so what do you think white should do at this point?
Well, I'm looking about tactics right now, but it's not really working. I wanted to take on a5 with the rook and then give a check on c5 with the bishop. And then push the queen to f4 to, yeah, pull.
Oh, that is
But
actually quite cool.
it is, but it's not working, I think. I think we're just losing a piece after all.
Yeah, you think rook a5 and
Yeah.
rook d4.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so too. I looked at rook d4 and I wasn't 100%, but I was like, yeah, this
It will.
looks.
Yeah, it's no, because we have, yeah, it's going to be with the check as well, so the rook cannot really
Exactly.
go to b5 or something. No, okay, never mind.
That's right.
So
So instead,
back to the
white
game.
went rook to b1, which
Okay.
is just like a preparation move, getting on the b file just in
Very
case.
good.
And after e5, I want you to find white's next move.
Well, it has to be bishop c5, no?
Bishop c5,
Check.
but he's going to take.
And then our bishop. Oh, we cannot really. Yeah, we cannot use that to our advantage. How disappointing. I thought, like, okay, we move our bishop from b7 to some cool square, but nothing happens. All of black pieces except one tiny pawn are on black squares. Which
Actually,
I
yes,
just
I
noticed.
didn't
Yeah.
even notice.
Yeah, me neither until right now. Okay, so what is black going to do next? Black now will take on b4. Also
You're
not.
going to take on b4, you're sure?
No, I'm not sure. But I think this looks cool. I would like it, I think.
Rook b4 is correct.
Yeah,
You're good.
good. Yeah, it
But
looks as
there, it's a bit more complicated than it
I
seems.
thought so.
So
it was a wild
rook
guess.
to b4 is correct. That's white's next move. Good job to everybody who found it.
But
so
now the rook takes on d4? Question mark.
yeah, so the rook can take on d4 or the pawn can take on d4. They lead to the same thing approximately.
Huh.
So whether the rook takes or the pawn takes, we're going to have to recapture with this rook. And this position, I think, is better for white. So because black has a really exposed king, which kind of matters here. And this pawn is going to be more of a problem towards even the king as well than this pawn ever is.
Yeah.
So the bishop is also good in these cases because it can attack, it can defend both sides. So this would still be a hard position to play for black, but at least it's not like losing, it's still like really defendable. But instead, why black actually recaptured that rook, because I think they didn't see one part of the continuation. So they recaptured the rook, which, what was our idea after that?
Well, we give a check on c5. That's how far I thought.
Definitely bishop to c5. So now we need to consider two moves, both king e6 and king e8. So if the king goes here, then I think we all want this bishop to go here just to finally corner that king. And this is a winning position. Even if you don't see past this, you just see that all of the pieces are pinned, none of them can go anywhere. So you just need one more attack and they're going to crumble. So you just attack the knight one more time. And then there's a lot of ways to win, but I liked this one just because you keep that bishop undefended, but instead you just say that there's no way to protect against this mate.
That's
because
nice.
of all of the pins and everything. So no matter what, white queen is just going to keep attacking that, and there's no way to defend it. But the more difficult solution was after king to e6. Because at first glance, black is fine. But the next move is decisive, which is probably what Aronian missed at the start of this combination.
Okay.
So what do you think it is?
Ladies and gentlemen, now it is time to think. Our rook is immediately hanging. What a pity. I thought of e4, but it's not working. No. Or is it? No. Or is it? No. Or is it? No, it's not working. Or is it? No, it's not working. No, it's just.
What did you say?
E4. I think about e4 back and forth, but it's not working. So there's a
If I remember correctly, I think e4 still gave a bit of an advantage to white.
Wow.
Like it didn't lose or anything. I remember
Wow.
e4 being mentioned, but there's one move that's like clearly winning and the rest are
Okay.
around equal.
Then there could be what could be else? What else could be? What about rook a1?
Rook a1? With what idea?
Well, give a check on a6 and
Yeah,
it's
give a mate.
almost mate,
Right,
right?
right
Yeah.
away. That's good. Rook a1 is the
Nice.
move. So
Nice.
it's one of those quiet moves that you might not see at the start because you're looking for a check, you're looking for a mate right away, but there isn't one, so you need to prepare it and to bring one more piece into the game with rook to a1. Perfect. So, and now there's actually just no way for black to defend. No matter what they do, let's say they try to defend with a knight, we're still going to do it, and now bring our second bishop and just, well, there's no place for the king to go.
Oh, brutal.
Here, I'll take with the rook. And if you go to e7, I'll take on f7. I think that's mate.
Yeah.
So there's no way to defend with the knight. No way to defend with the rook either, because we're going to just give a check. Well, actually, not a checkmate. We can win the queen probably in a even more simple. We can keep it just like this with winning the queen and checkmate in a couple moves later. So this is just a very difficult situation for black already. It's already losing. And I imagine that seeing rook a1 just like one move too late was just already over.
That is brutal.
But he still tried one more trick. He played rook to d6 and took back with the king. He couldn't take back with the queen because of rook a6 anyway. So he went for this. Funny that he's still up a pawn, but this is not going to last long because rook a8 actually is going to do, I don't know what it's called, a skewer. However,
Yes.
however you call it, because you win the other rook on the other side. And he tried one last trick with his passed b pawn.
My
So he lost the
goodness.
rook, but he tried b3 because what if
It looks
white misses that and
scary.
lets you queen in a couple moves?
So this is one of those positions where when you ever face a grandmaster and you really have this incredible position, they will always get those moves out of nowhere and you're like, no, I missed that. How could I miss that? And stuff. So I want to think for myself for a second, because this is one of those scary moments. For example, I can play bishop e4. And then rook b8, unless the king goes to c7. Well, bishop e4, knight takes. Rook b8, is that a knight goes to c5? It's not working.
Yeah, I think bishop e4 is one of those ways of how to lose. Or not even how to lose, of how to not win.
So is it
Because it's probably going to be a draw.
Yeah, bishop a6, b2, rook b8.
Yeah, that's enough, actually.
But
Bishop a6.
Okay, bishop a6, knight to d7.
But then you just play, I thought your idea was to play, well, actually, this is what happened in the game. So I'll put it on the board, bishop a6.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
There's a lot of way to defend it.
Pardon.
So there's a lot of ways to defend it, but it's good to it's good to think of it, because if you make one wrong move, he might queen.
Exactly. Yeah.
But knight d7, so he protects b8, but this doesn't save anything because he can just defend with bishop d3, but what he did instead was actually just rook h4.
Exactly, yeah, perfect. Okay.
And well, he resigned at this point, but basically the idea is that the next move there's rook b4, like you move the bishop and then play rook b4.
Yeah.
And
you moved the bishop, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no more
Yeah, but it is scary after all. It's always so crazy. My
It
goodness.
is a
Yeah.
little scary, and that's why they're gonna try until the very end, and that's what makes
Mm,
them good players. But so yeah, that's the end of the game.
perfect.
I thought it had an interesting critical moment with that d5 move, which not a lot of people would actually play. But it's games like these that can just solidify these principles and to teach us how to make these practical decisions that are going to make the game more difficult for the opponent, and how to make these moves, even if you don't fully know what is going to happen later. You can't calculate everything, but this is how to develop that intuition to make the most difficult moves for the
Yeah.
opponent.
Beautiful example of how to, yeah, get the initiative rolling. Thank you, Svitlana. Thank you, everybody, for watching.